So I have a friend who lives in Mexico. He's an American. I'm a Canadian. And he sent me a message asking why he's been seeing so many Canadian flags recently. He was actually saying, do you have as many Canadian flags in Canada as I'm seeing down here? And, he also said something to the effect of, why is it, as an American, I feel strange showing my country's flag in another country? But Canadians seem to be much more open about it. You're seeing Canadian flags all over the place. I thought this was an interesting question, and I wanted to share a few thoughts on it. Now, first of all, patriotism is a strange thing. Some people see it as being problematic. Some people see it as, okay, if you are like too much in love with your country, that means you are supporting everything your country does, and you are agreeing with things that you don't necessarily agree with. Like, sometimes people think displaying your country's flag comes with a whole list of political beliefs that come along with that. I don't think that is true necessarily. It might be true for some people, but I think wherever you're from, there are some good things about your country. Whether you're from the United States of America, or whether you're from Russia, or whether you're from China. Heck, even if you're from North Korea and a North Korean wants to have a North Korean flag on their backpack when they're traveling. It's kind of a silly example because North Koreans, as far as I know, can't really travel. But the point is, having that flag, to them, it might just mean that they're proud of their landscapes and their family and their city. That doesn't mean anything about the government. And it's the same for Americans. It's the same for Canadians. A flag can be something completely removed from politics. But I think when the world becomes increasingly political, and when someone's government is doing things that are annoying a lot of people in other countries, threatening other countries with invasion, throwing tariffs on other countries, bullying other countries, then suddenly that flag becomes something that brings up a strong emotional response in people from other countries. A strong negative response, I would say. And so, to the question of why you're seeing more Canadian flags, well, in part it's because Canadians want to distinguish themselves from Americans, because we have a lot of cultural similarities. Even our accent isn't so different. I can almost always tell when someone's a Canadian or American based on their accent. But I think people from Europe or other places think we sound pretty much the same. It's like I can't really tell someone from the north of England or the south of England. I know that there are distinct accents. I know that like people from England will be like, oh yeah, that's a southerner. But I can't tell the difference. My ears just aren't trained for that. It's probably the same for them. They just hear a Canadian and think, oh, that's an American, unless they have the Canadian flag. And it's like, no, we're not one of them, Now, I think there's a lot of Americans who also feel like we're not one of them, in the sense of we're not one of these arrogant Americans. Ugly Americans is a term that you sometimes hear. And what that means is Americans who are displaying ugly tendencies towards other countries, ignorance of the world around them, hyper-patriotism, the whole world revolves around us and all the other people are crazy or backward, third world lunatics. There are Americans who think that. Heck, I've met Americans who live in places like Detroit. They live so close to Canada they can see it. We're right across the river. And they've never visited. They've never had any desire to see any other country outside of their own. And as a traveler, I think that's sad, but that's another topic altogether. For today, I'll just say that whether you intend it or not, some people perceive your country's flag as being a symbol for something. And so, on the one hand, Canadians are showing their flag more to distinguish ourselves from Americans. Now, on the other hand, we're displaying our flag more because we're being attacked. We're being poked by this big bully named Donald Trump. And the pokes might have seemed like a game at the beginning, or just like a older brother just poking his younger brother, just like, trolling a little bit. But now the pokes don't seem so funny anymore. Just like the pokes against Greenland might have seemed like a joke a year ago. Well, now you have European forces mobilizing and being sent to nuke the capital of Greenland. Now you have Donald Trump in the White House showing images of all of North America with the American flag over it, including Venezuela down in South America, including, I think he put Iceland even. He's talking about Iceland being the 52nd state. My country, Canada, of course, would be the 51st. Now, so all of this doesn't seem so funny anymore to people who thought it might have been a joke. For the record, I didn't think it was a joke. I made a video called A Message to Americans. What was that, like February? Almost a year ago now. Did I take that video down? No, that's on my main channel. So anyway, I'll put a link down below to that video, and that speaks specifically about why I don't think Donald Trump is joking when he talks about us being the 51st state. I don't think we should see him as just a crazy old man who just says whatever. I think he's serious about everything he says. And I think what happened in Venezuela is a very clear example of that. He has no problem using force. He has no problem killing people. I think 32 people were killed in the operation that got President Maduro and his wife kidnapped. I use that word intentionally. It was a kidnapping, whether you agree with it or not. That's a topic for the Venezuelans to determine if it's a good thing or not. History will tell. What's clear is it was illegal by any kind of international standards. It wasn't voted upon by the United Nations or by the American Congress or by anyone. It was the United States kidnapping the leader of a foreign country, murdering dozens of people in the process, dropping bombs on their capital, Caracas. And so if that suddenly happened in Ottawa and suddenly we wake up and our Prime Minister Mark Carney has been taken away and the American news is just saying, oh, this was an operation to liberate Canadians, or the same thing happens in Greenland or any of these other countries, we might protest, but would anyone actually stop the United States? The other countries might condemn the action, but would that be enough to actually stop it? In some ways, it seems like Venezuela was, obviously they cared about the oil. That's always a big thing for American foreign policy. But on another level, it felt to me like they're testing the waters. Going back to the poke analogy, they're seeing how big the poke the world will take. This was a strategy that the Germans used in the build-up to World War II. Okay, can we take Austria? Can we take the Czech Republic? Can we take Poland? And the rest of the world just kind of watched it happen. And they would write these strongly worded letters to the people of Germany and to the international community condemning these actions, but they wouldn't actually mobilize their armies and stop it when they had a chance. Well, now we're seeing the first bits of troops in Greenland mobilizing. And I just think most Americans are not even aware of what's happening. They live in a heavily influenced media landscape. Like they're just not seeing it how the rest of the world is seeing it. So I think what's happening is not a joke. I think what's happening has never been a joke. And I think the echoes of time will tell us whether we're going down a very dark path or whether we can still pull back from the brink of insanity here and stop this madness. So that's why I think you're seeing more Canadian flags. It's a symbol that we're still on the right side of history here. We're people who actually want to stop the madness. And if you're an American who also wants to stop the madness, it's a very tricky question about if you can wear an American flag, because on the one hand, it sucks to let, the bad people, the people you disagree with, control an image with as much history and as much importance as the American flag. So I think someone who's open-minded and loves the world can wear an American flag, but maybe there's an extra, maybe it's necessary for that person to make an extra effort to engage with other people, especially if you're down in Mexico or something. If you're wearing an American flag, and if you're getting some strange looks from Latinos down there, it might be because they're wondering if you're someone who supports what's happening with ICE, the forced deportation of potentially millions of Americans right now, or at least migrants to America. Regardless of their status, what's happening right now is horrible. And I think there is a necessity to show people, hey, this is what the flag means to me. It's not a symbol of hate against you or your people. It's not a signal of support for invading Greenland or Canada or Iceland or Venezuela or any of these places. If you wear your flag, you are a representative of your country. That will come with its own set of assumptions from other people. And so there's a responsibility to be willing to speak up. If someone asks you about this stuff and you're wearing an American flag, I don't think it's okay to just say, I don't follow politics, I don't care about any of that. Because that's a very privileged position you're in, to be able to say, I don't care about this stuff. It's other people's families who are being torn apart, countries that are being potentially invaded. And so, as I feel, there's a very big gust of wind blowing right now. You could say the winds of change are coming upon us, my friends. And it's up to each of us who we want to be during these times. If we're willing to be someone who stood up for what we believed in, even when it's hard, spoke out about these issues, even when it could cost us friendships or, it's never easy talking about stuff like this. But I think it's necessary, and I think that ultimately people who wear their country's flag, ignorant of all the horrors their country are causing, will be judged harshly for that. Just as Germans in the late 1930s would have been judged harshly for supporting their nation too strongly, and just saying, well, I don't follow that political stuff, and that's what I think about that. Leave a comment, let me know what you think about displaying your nation's flag. What does it mean to you? As always, I'm Dan, and I'll catch you next time. Peace. And I literally mean that. Let's pray for peace, because it's an important thing to have, especially these days.